G'day, Greg Miller here from the Joy of Wood. I love these eating spoons. They are such fun to make. We provide these Silky Oak eating spoon blanks. It's such a lovely wood to carve. It's very pretty, it's very light, and it just makes such nice spoons. So here's a little bit of variation here. So here's one more for a kid, a smaller kid. So it's got a narrower, smaller spoon on the end. And small in here, so it's really lovely to use. This one's a little bit bigger in the bowl capacity. It's got a funky finial on the end and a nice shape to it. What about this one? This has got a bit more hook in the handle there. Nice little bowl. Beautiful the way this one works. I love this one. That's a beautiful bit of wood, eh? This one here is actually my muesli spoon. Isn't that cool? I love it, very pretty. Got another funky finial on the end and it's got a nice shape to it that way. So these are great fun. Let me show you how we do this. Start out with one of our Silky Oak blanks like this. So I've got two things I'm going to think about. One is the bird's eye view. What size bowl are we going to do? Where's this handle going to go down here? Somewhere in here. Something like that. I'll do it a bit darker so you can see it. This is just giving you an idea of where we're going to go. Got a bit of a handle out here. I might flare that out a bit. I'm going to flare that out a bit there. That leaves me some options to do something interesting on the end. So that's where the bowl is going to be, in there. When you look from the side, we're going to put a bit of a shape in it that way also. So we're going to utilise the side. So if we have our bowl in here, then I'm going to do a handle. Now if I want to put a crook in it, I'll build the crook down there and have the handle come up. And that just puts that bit of a crank, a bit of a bend in it. So when you look at these, they are not all the same. So this one here comes down and the bend is right back there. This one here, the bend is a little bit here, but a lot of the bend is just there, halfway over the bowl. This one here, it just has a subtle curve in there. So they're all a little bit different. That's the fun, isn't it? You get to decide how that works. So we're going to have a bit of a crank in there, a bit of a handle, and I'll probably hook it over like that so we get something like that going on with the spoon. Okay, so where do we start? Now, I'm going to use some fundamental skills here. I'm basically going to use, I could just use 2 knives. I might use the 3 to show you. This is the Mora 162 double-sided hook knife. This is the Mora 120 Sloyd knife, and this is the Mora 106, a slightly longer one. That's my favourite most of the time, but and the 120 is the one we supply in the whittling kits. But we got all of these things here. Right, let's see where we go. First of all, I'm going to remove some of the waste off here. So for this, I'm going to use one of these power cuts. The 106 is a great one for this. So no slashing blade here. I'm going to put my thumb up on the top side there. I'm going to pull the wood past. So it's all in the elbow, this arm over here. This one is locked on the chest, so I can quickly start to chew that away. I'll do a bit on this side. So with the blade skewed like that, it'll take these big, long slices off. Again, there's no slashing blade. All right. So this hand here controls the angle of the blade. So I can make it curl around like that. So I've got that shape coming in the side here. I'll do the same over here. I'll go back that way and get some of that off. See where this is going. What about down in here? I'm going to use my thumb push so I can start to curve that around. I'm rolling the blade around to start to create the neck. I'm going to do this side here so I can just redraw this so you can see where we're going. So that nice rolling curve for now. That gets me down in there. So I can take a bit of that out. You see how that's running along there? If it's going where I don't want it to go, if I want this wider, I'll turn it around and I'll come back this direction. For the moment I'm flaring out wider, which means it'll tend to want to split right down through here. Could lose a little bit more yet. This is always a bit of a three-way relationship between you, a bit of wood, and the knife. There we go. Looking good. I'm going to start to come this around here. So this is my thumb push. Working my way around here. Start to swing that around. And I'm going to take a great heap out of here. Now I could have got a coping saw and cut a whole heap of this out beforehand if I wanted to, but I'm just going straight into the knife. Around we go. So all those little facet cuts around the corner, and we're gradually working our way around in here. Right, so you know how we did this bit here? Going to do the same there. Purposefully rolling the blade around so it goes a bit deeper. Take some of those bits off. Beautiful. Right. So from such quite a big piece of wood, taking out quite a heap really. Okay. Let's get a great chunk more of that. Okay. There we go. Get a bit of that off the back of there. This darker piece here comes from more the outside of the, closer to the outside of the tree. A little bit of rotten stuff in there, which is why I've moved it over to this side of the stick. So most of that grey stuff is going to go. I guess reading the piece is one of those important skills, isn't it? It'll inform the way you create your spoon. Right, round we go. We're just starting to zero in on that rough shape that I've drawn. Not going to be too worried about getting perfectly in that spot yet. That's going to come later. I'll tend to work backwards and forwards a bit. I'm starting on the outside here. Look at that. The tiniest little nick on my finger there. Just get a bit of bleeding. And I just did it just up in there because I was in a hurry just showing you how to hog stuff off. When your hands are really busy, your brain sends a lot more blood there to feed oxygen to the muscles. So the circulation's increasing your fingers. So the tiniest little nick will generate a whole pile more blood than it would normally. It's all good, all healthy. Right, here we go. Take a bit of that out of there. Okay. Right. So here we are. Just been shifting some of that material away from there, and we're going to start to hollow out the inside of my spoon here. Now on the side, we're going to go for a shape like this. put that bit of a crank in there and get the handle up there doing something interesting. So we're going to have that bit of a hollow in there so it works well in the mouth. It's always the best test. So I'm going to change over now, just get on the inside here so I get a sense of where I'm going using this hook knife. And I'm going to go across. Most of the time we want to go across, if you can see that. So it's all in the rotation of this wrist. And this thumb here, this one is just helping to kind of be a bit of a fulcrum really. Hold it while we come around. Once that gets started, it just gets easier. So it's a double-sided knife, so I can work both directions. What I want to be mindful of is I don't want to create a tablespoon or a big serving spoon. We're doing an eating spoon. So I don't want to be too big. But I also need it big enough to deal with the fact that I want to put a crank in the handle here to give it some nice flowing shape. So to do that, I've got to go deeper and wider than I would have thought because I'm going to cut the top off it. So around we go. I love the way this stuff carves. Around we go. See that nice hollow forming just there. Heading up towards the other end. That's the shallow end of the pool there, isn't it? That entry part where it goes into the mouth. So that's this bit here. That's going to be a bit deeper back there. So I'm going to come around along that side, that nice, again working across the grain. Going a bit deeper here, a bit shallower down there. So this is the deep end of the pool down here. Now when I cut the top off this, of course, it's going to change everything. I'm conscious of that, having done lots of these. Alright, there we go. Nice. So I've got a bit of a start there. I'm going to work on this crank now. So I'm going to come in here. Now this method of drawing the blade towards me, we look at in one of the videos. The really important thing is this hand does not push towards your hand. If anything, it's pulling away, and this thumb is pulling it in. So if you let go, it springs back. You can't cut yourself then. Says the guy with a band-aid on his thumb. Right, down we go. Down into here. You can turn it around if you can get into there. Go that way if that's something that works better for you. Not enough handle for me. I've got big hands. Right, down we go. A little bit of that. A little bit of that. See that shape that's starting to form there. I'm going to start out with that as a fairly abrupt sweep down. That's okay because I can always fiddle with it later. Just want to get this redrawn on the side so you can see where we're going. Alright. So what was the deep end of the pool before is now quite shallow. So I'm going to get in there, take a bit more out. See where that's going down in there. So we leave this bit here and we take it out down there, creating that bit of a ramp kind of shape there. So in we go, a little bit more of that. Right, I'm going to go back onto the outside here. That's how I tend to work. A bit inside, a bit outside. Lots of these facet cuts. So I'm sort of using a thumb push, moving the piece of wood around. So as you go, you've got to look at it. So it's looking very thick at the moment, don't worry about that. That's the really important thing. It's got to be able to fit into your gob. So that's going to get reduced down more and make that a bit thinner. That's why it's useful to do a little bit of the hollowing in the middle first, then go back to the outside. It helps you keep a perspective on where things are going, I find. Okay, around over here now. Wire this side, take a bit of that off. Okay. That's a bit narrower. And you see, I'm not too worried about all this at the moment. The focus is really on getting the bowl sorted, and then a lot of the handle's going to happen after that. So it's very, very chunky thread flintstone here at the moment. That's all going to change. Looking at it, I'm going to reduce a bit more off the side there. It's got to be comfortable the way it goes into the mouth. It's got a long, slow slope up this direction. You notice I'm working right out on the tip here, using the shorter blade. Means I can get in here and I'm away from this part of my hand. This bit up the front here, I'll make that long already. So, tricky thing with the curves is the curve here actually starts right back there. Got to remember that as you come around. More than any other spoon, the eating spoon needs to be shaped right so it feels good in the mouth. The entry and the exit, and just the sitting there. If you can comfortably eat ice cream off it, that must be good, eh? Okay, so we've just made that longer there. So as we come in here with our hook knife, I'm going to lay it over a bit more so it gets thinner up towards the end. I'm also going to start to cut outwards towards the outside, widening it as I go. It's a little too fat around the outside. So does that mean you take it out of the inside, or do you take it out off from the outside? That, spoon maker, is your dilemma. Yep, that's looking pretty good. So I quite like where the shape's going on this. So on the inside of the bowl, so that probably means I'm going to take more off the outside rather than hollow the inside out more. Now when you look at a lot of the European style eating spoons on the internet, they tend to be wide and flat with a bit of a crank part way, 2/3 of the way along. When I eat my muesli, I like to have a bucket on the end to hold the milk and the yogurt along with the muesli. So I tend to go deeper and not have that wide, flat, sort of pointy shape. There's just getting this the way that I like my eating spoons to be. Beautiful thing about this is you get to choose, unless fate. comes into play. Things don't quite go according to plan. And we've all had that experience along the way. So I'm taking that right out thinner towards the end. Nice, that's looking okay to me. Right, I can live with that. So over here, I'm going to take a little bit more off this side. It's a bit heavy on the rim. So if I get that there, then I'll come away below it and get that shaped out. So when you run your finger calipers around in here, you want to feel this getting nice and sort of even really. No big thick spots in it. Alright, I like where that's going. I'm going to come back to the handle now. So that's working quite nicely there, isn't it? Let me show you where this bit's going to go. If I take that up into here, I can bring it down again like that. That would just create a nice bit of a shape inside there. So I've got to go two directions with this. If I go charging through here, I'll take a chunk off there. So I've got to go both directions, down that way and down that way to meet in the middle. Well, let's do that. So I'm going to start at the top of the hill. And I'm working my way down into there. And turn it around. Start working towards it. So what are we going to do here? I had something drawn like this, trying to avoid that grey stuff. So let's take a bit of that out. Back to my power cut. So keep stopping to check where we're going. Lines are very important. They help us know where we've been and where we're going. A bit like history, isn't it really? If only we paid more attention to history. Right, that's looking okay. So, where am I going with this handle? I don't actually know. That's the fun part about doing it this way, is to just start going in there and see what evolves. What if we bring that around there also? So it'll kind of fit a bit nicer in the hand. So if we take some of that off, see that bit of that on the end. Still pretty hefty handle. I'm going to take that down a bit more, yeah. It's usually easy to take a sharp corner off, so I could take that down by going that way and then that way. And that means the bit in the middle is smaller. The other way, and just take those out. So the more I come in up here underneath, the more that puts that, emphasises the crank in the handle. Still haven't resolved what I'm doing on the end yet. You can see where that's going. It's quite heavy in here, so that's going to come down a bit too. But I'll reduce that down some more. And come around underneath, round that out. Sometimes I quite like a handles that are round on the underside and flat on the top. Gives you a lovely surface to carve designs or names and things like that. Gotta listen to the wood. It's talking to me. Saying go the other way, Greg. Right. Okay, so there you can see where the shape is forming, just like that. So I've got a little bit of corrugation along the top here, so I need to just prune a little bit of that off there. That's it. Oh yeah, baby, that's a good one. All right, so there it is. Got that bit of a crank happening here. I'll have to be able to go in there easily, so a bit more is going to come off the back of here. Nice. All right, so what are we going to do up the end here? I think I'm just going to do an interesting bit of a curving shape and leave this to carve something or other on the top. Let's do that. A little bit of a teardrop thing happening up the back end here, just for fun. So that works nicely. That works well too. I like that downward hook on that end. That works very well. I'll accentuate it a bit more. Start it back here further. I think the way a spoon ends up on the end is important. It's got to look good, it's got to feel nice, it's just got to be right all round. Alright, now, there we go. I've got a nice big end on this. You don't have to have a big end. This one's got a much smaller end, hasn't it? It's a smaller spoon. It's got a smaller end on it. It's all a matter of choice. This one's a bit smaller. It's got a very pronounced hook on the end there happening. That's what's fun about this. You can just play with it. That one's got a funky finial. It's about less solid because the finial finds it down right on the end. Okay, that is going to be pretty close to it. Now, I'm not a big fan of sandpaper, but in this case, I am going to use sandpaper because it's going to just help produce that really smooth finish that most people expect because they've spent a lifetime of eating off stainless steel. And even though it is fun to have a more textured finish, I'm going to sand it so we get it more like what people expect to end up with. It's going to be pretty cool. Let's see what happens. When you're going to sand something three-dimensional like this, the best way of doing it is to get your piece of paper. There's a coarse one here, it's about a 100 grit. This is about as coarse as I ever go. And I'm going to fold that into thirds, like that. So it grips on itself, it grips on your hand. It's also flexible, so it will follow curves. So while I'm sanding back and forth in here, the paper is bending to suit the curve. And you notice I just turn the sandpaper then, because it'll clog up. So I'm always looking for a bit of fresh meat. When this bit's a bit tired, we've got that bit. When that's a bit tired, we've got that bit. It's a great system. So I've just been focusing on the back of the handle of the spoon in this area just here. So just going back and forth until I've got rid of all the sort of facet marks and any knife marks that are there. I haven't done this bit up the end yet, I'll come back to that later. So I've almost got this all cleaned up. So what I'm going to do now is move to the top side of the handle of the spoon, because I've got my top flattish and then rounded underneath. So I'm working in this area here. You know, it's by sitting it on the bench and pushing down with this hand, I get more efficient use. When I hold up in the air like this, it's not as efficient, but it will get me places that it's harder to do when I'm on the bench. So this goes in a curve that way, so I need the paper to go in that curve to get that shape. Now I'm going to come around the side. Work on that bit there I haven't got. So I haven't got anywhere near the bowl yet. That's coming. The bowl currently is the handle that I'm holding. I need to do something really interesting just there. I'm still thinking about that. So this is all done with a 100 grit paper at the moment. I'm going to change over to 120 shortly, so that means a little bit finer while I'm thinking about this bit here. Now, do the back of the bowl. I want to wrap over like that. This one I do have to hold up in the air. I want it to follow that curve. Because we're working with a curve, the important thing is to not work in one spot, but to keep it moving, keep it turning. That way you don't end up with a flat spot anywhere. It's important when we've got all these complex curves. So you can see there's a couple of little flat spots in here. So because it's going to go in the mouth, you want it to feel nice and even. I'm going to keep taking that down until I get rid of those little flat spots. Now if my paper is just too dead, I'll get a fresh piece. Well, I'm going to milk it for all I can first. It's looking pretty good on the back now. So that could go to a finer paper in there. I've done the top of this, but I haven't done in the bowl yet. That's a bit of a tricky one. Get my thumb, sit it on the bench, get my thumb, and twist it like this. I'm working on the mouth end of the bowl. I'll turn it around and go to the handle end of the bowl, doing the same thing. Now this will tend to wear down the top corners a little bit as well, which is good, so that sort of thins it out around the rim. So you can hear it catching a bit, and that's just this bit right here that hasn't had any sanding yet. I know I'm going against the grain at this point, but that's okay. We're going to go over it again the correct way once I've got that tricky bit sorted. This bit of paper's getting rather tired, so the abrasive wears off it and gets clogged. So I'm going to go to the next level. I'm going to go to a 120, which is still pretty coarse. But not as coarse. The old origami trick. So I'm going back to the beginning. still got that unresolved yet. I'm still thinking about it. So I'm going over where I was before. It's actually helping to get rid of the scratch marks from the coarser one before it. So the principle of working your way down through the grits is you're getting rid of the scratch marks from the one before. And I'm still looking for any little flat spots, little odd facets here and there, which we need to just sort out. The only way to get rid of them is to get rid of the material around them, so they're no longer the lowest point. That's come out pretty nice. Okay, now into the bowl we go. Nice and smooth. Oh yeah, look at that. Alright, time to go finer. I'm going to get a bit of 240 grit paper. So means that the little crystals of abrasive little particles are much smaller now. So as we go in with this, it will tend to highlight those bits that we might have missed. The little flat spots, the funny marks, any little knife cuts or whatever. Still thinking about that end, probably not do it. Trying as much as possible to go the same direction as the grain. And I'm looking for uniformity in the thickness of that lip, which I can obtain a little bit of strategic sandpaper work. Look at it from the side. Yeah, look at that. Now that is a good looking spoon. Now you will find people who keep poking it in their mouth to test it. I know I don't need to do that because I've done enough of these. I reckon that's going to work really nicely. So this one's got a bit of a crank coming off the back of the bowl, and then up she goes. Lovely. So there's that disc shape on the end. What if I just hollowed it out a little bit? Just use my hook knife just to create a little subtle hollow. It serves no practical function. It's just a little textural surprise. You notice that there's a little hollow in the end. Will this be a nice surprise? I think that's going to work. Look at that. For no apparent reason, it's not a teaspoon. It's just because we can. It's got a little hollow in the end, just for interest. Little surprise. Yeah, I like it. Right, back up through the grits. So I'm really pushing my thumb in so that the paper bends around in that shape. Haha, look at that. I like that little surprise underneath. How's that? Just that little hollow, nice interesting profile from the side. And there it is. So I'm pretty happy with where this has gone. I like my little cute thing up on the end there. Nice. Alright, I'm going to oil it now. So, what sort of oil? It's got to be food safe. I'm not into using fossil fuels, so there won't be any mineral oil in this. We've got an array of different food safe oils which we use. And one of the ones that I really like a lot is coconut oil. Beautiful. So all I need is a bit of this in there. Now as I work it around with my finger, the heat generated melts the oil to help it penetrate. We've been messing around with, for years we've been using orange oil. I've used flaxseed oil. I'm playing recently with organic food grade cannabis oil. Lots of different oils we play with, but in the end it needs to be something food safe. And that's come up nicely. So I'm just working that in. You can use olive oil, whatever you got in your kitchen at home. Olive oil's a bit thicker and takes a bit longer to sort of soak in, but it works perfectly well. Alright, so this coconut oil is nice. I don't worry about wearing gloves when I'm using this like I might with orange oil, because so many cosmetics have got coconut oil in them, haven't they? There we go, look at that. Now, this spoon is a beauty. I like the big handle on it. It's kind of a spoon for an adult hand, one like mine. Whether you're eating this way or you're shoveling this way, it still works. That little dimple in the end there kind of works nicely to hook your little finger in it when you're shoveling. I have been known to shovel my food for most of my lifetime. So all I'm doing now is just taking off some of the surplus oil. Got a little bit of that black spalting from the fungus in there. Just adds a bit of interest, and it sort of extends down the line here. So that's pretty cool. I worked to get rid of most of it because some of it was just rotten, but what we've got there is not rot. It's just that discoloration from the fungal mycelium. Right, look at this. Put that lid on. There we have one very nice little eating spoon, ready to go. With a cute little thing in the bottom, back of the handle. So many different ways and possibilities we can do this. It all started out one of these Silky Oak little spoon blanks we have here. So just starting with that, we've just used those knives to produce the result. And I reckon it's come up pretty nicely. Eating spoons are a lot of fun to make. They're a lot of fun to give people as gifts. They're also a lot of fun to use. And it's just nice to take something like that piece of wood, which came from somebody's garden tree, and turn lots of beautiful functional items out of it, including another one now, this nice little eating spoon. See you in the workshop. Bon appetit.